Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 hit $1 billion in revenue in just 10 days, faster than any entertainment release at the time. Not just faster than other games, but faster than movies, albums, anything. Parents who hadn't touched a controller in years were buying it. People were calling in sick to work. Midnight launches had lines around the block. This wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural event. And for a stretch of about 5 years, Call of Duty wasn't just the biggest game in the world, it was the defining piece of entertainment in an entire generation's life. So what happened between then and 2025? To understand the fall, you have to understand how high the peak actually was, because the numbers are genuinely staggering. Black Ops in 2010 sold 30.99 million units worldwide. Black Ops 2 in 2012 earned $500 million in revenue within its first 24 hours alone, one of the highest-grossing entertainment launches in history at the time, across any medium. Black Ops 3 in 2015 sold 43 million units over its lifetime, the highest of any Black Ops title ever released. And even as late as 2020, Black Ops Cold War pulled in $687 million within its first 6 weeks. These weren't just strong video game sales, they were numbers that made Hollywood executives pay attention. This was a franchise that had transcended its own industry, and the people playing it knew it. There was a pride in being a Call of Duty player back then, a sense of being part of something bigger than just a game. And that's exactly what makes everything that followed so painful to watch. Because the decline wasn't sudden, it was slow, deliberate, and almost entirely self-inflicted. The first and most structural problem was the annual release model. Activision made a decision early on that Call of Duty would ship a new entry every single year, no exceptions, no delays. On the surface, that looks like confidence. In reality, it created a machine that was almost designed to eventually break down. Releasing a polished, innovative game in any medium every 12 months is extraordinarily difficult. Doing it with a franchise carrying this much expectation is nearly impossible. Activision's answer was a 3-studio rotation. Infinity Ward, Treyarch, and Sledgehammer Games would each work on a title simultaneously, staggering releases so that no single team was working back-to-back. On paper, it's a smart solution. In practice, each studio was still operating on an 18 to 24-month development cycle, while the pressure to ship something bigger, better, and more innovative never once let up. There was no room to take risks, no room to rethink the formula, just constant output, year after year, with the marketing machine already revving up for the next one before the current game had even been out a month. The warning signs appeared as early as 2013 with Ghosts. It was positioned as the big next-generation leap, the game that would justify the new hardware and push the franchise into a new era. What players actually got was a forgettable campaign, a slow and unbalanced multiplayer, and a map design philosophy that the majority of the community rejected almost immediately. Ghosts didn't destroy the franchise, but it was the first time a significant number of people looked at a new Call of Duty and genuinely shrugged. The trust started thinning. But the real breaking point, the moment that shifted the relationship between Activision and its community from strained to broken, came in 2023 with Modern Warfare 3. What Sledgehammer delivered that year wasn't just a disappointing game, it was a game that showed exactly how much the studio had been set up to fail by the system around it. The campaign was the shortest in franchise history. Multiplayer shipped with a significant portion of its maps directly recycled from the previous game. Core features that players expected at launch were missing. And despite all of that, it still carried a full $70 price tag. The community's response wasn't just negative, it was visceral. Players felt disrespected. They felt like Activision had decided their money and their time were guaranteed regardless of what was actually delivered. Modern Warfare 3 became the lowest-rated Call of Duty game ever made, and Activision shipped it anyway, charged full price anyway, and moved straight on to promoting the next one. That moment planted a seed of genuine distrust in the community, and it never fully went away. Compounding all of this was a change to the game's fundamental feel, one that didn't make headlines the way a bad review does, but quietly drove away more players than almost anything else. Activision introduced an aggressive skill-based matchmaking system known as SMBM, and it changed the experience of playing Call of Duty at a foundational level. The old system was chaotic in the best possible way. Lobbies were unpredictable. You'd find yourself in a match against a total mix of skill levels, which meant that even if you were having an off night, there was always breathing room. You could get outplayed, learn something, shake it off, and come back the next game feeling good. That unpredictability was part of what made the game social. You'd run into the same players repeatedly, develop unofficial rivalries, build a sense of community in the chaos of public lobbies. SMBM stripped all of that away. The new system calibrates every single match based on your recent performance, which creates a treadmill effect that never lets you rest. Play well in one game, and the system immediately scales up the competition in the next. There's no downtime, no casual game. Every lobby feels like it's being treated as a ranked match, even when you just want to unwind after work. For the average player, the massive, casual majority that actually made Call of Duty the cultural phenomenon it became, the game stopped being fun. The persistent lobbies disappeared, the social element died, and the players who had been there since 2007, who had built the franchise's reputation through word of mouth and genuine enthusiasm, started leaving quietly and in large numbers. Then came what might be the most visible symptom of the franchise's identity crisis, the cosmetics problem. When Fortnite began generating billions of dollars annually from selling cosmetic content, Activision looked at those numbers and made the obvious business decision to chase the same model. That instinct isn't wrong in isolation. The problem was that Fortnite and Call of Duty are fundamentally different games with fundamentally different identities. Fortnite is a cartoon. It was designed from the ground up to be visually absurd, to celebrate the ridiculous, and to welcome any crossover imaginable. Darth Vader standing next to a banana man in a cowboy hat makes complete sense in Fortnite because the game has no pretension of realism to protect. Call of Duty built its entire brand on the opposite foundation: gritty military authenticity, cinematic seriousness, campaigns ripped from real-world conflict zones. That identity was the reason people took it seriously. It was the reason it outsold movies. And then Activision started selling Nicki Minaj operator skins, then Beavis and Butthead, then characters dressed as tacos running through maps that were supposed to evoke the tension of modern warfare. Analysts at Alenia Analytics specifically called out these crossover cosmetics as having alienated a significant portion of the fan base who had come to the game precisely because of its grounded military aesthetic. Players who had been loyal since the beginning looked at their lobbies and simply didn't recognize what they were playing anymore. The brand identity that had been built so carefully over 15 years was being sold off piece by piece for short-term revenue, and the audience noticed. Black Ops 7 added another wound. Players began noticing signs of AI-generated content in the game's promotional material and in certain in-game assets. The community labeled it immediately. In a franchise that had once prided itself on cinematic production values, Hollywood-caliber campaigns, and some of the most memorable art direction in gaming history, AI-generated filler felt like a statement, an admission that the standard had been quietly lowered, and nobody expected to notice. People noticed. The numbers confirm everything. Twitch viewership is one of the most honest, real-time indicators of a franchise's cultural health, and Call of Duty's numbers told a devastating story. Modern Warfare 3 peaked at 444,866 concurrent viewers on launch day. By early 2025, average weekly viewership had collapsed to just 17,345. That is a 97% decline. Nearly the entire audience had drifted away, and no marketing campaign was bringing them back. The $69 billion Microsoft acquisition of Activision Blizzard was supposed to be the reset button. The plan was straightforward: put Call of Duty on Xbox Game Pass, drive subscription growth, and use the franchise's size to dominate the next era of gaming. The reality was more sobering. Analysts at Ampere found that adding Black Ops 6 to Game Pass generated just a 2% increase in subscribers. 2% for one of the largest entertainment acquisitions in human history. So yeah, Call of Duty is dead. Not with a bang, not on some battlefield. It died quietly in a boardroom, in a monetization meeting. And the worst part? We watched it happen and kept buying. What can I say?